Hey everyone, welcome to Brandt's Rant. So last week we talked about equilibrium in one's life. How do you strike this balance between things that you want to get done at work or signed up to get done at work, but also the other things that are important to your life. Not just splitting between home and work, but family, creativity, spirituality, perhaps. All these different things that creates a happy person or a contented person.
Hi, Brant Cooper here. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the world speaking with startup founders, investors, ecosystem developers. I've learned a lot in my travels. I've got some stories, and I have some thinking that I love to share. Welcome to Brandt's Rant.
So here we are in December, and it's goal setting season, right? As we swing into 2021, hopefully we can muster some hope and optimism after this insane year, and really, if we're honest, a pretty devastating year, not only in terms of our own economies, perhaps, but people that are struggling, or we're on the margins. It's been devastating, and of course the amount of life loss is unfathomable and really pretty inexcusable, to be honest. But enough of that for now, as we swing into goal setting season and our hopes for 2021. I think we can leverage what we talked about a little bit last week in terms of the different ways that one balances one's life, because you should actually create goals and prioritize those goals along all of those elements. And so I allude to a Kanban board, or the personal Kanban. You can go to personalkanban.com, and there's a bunch of different blog posts on how people have adapted that, and I've adapted it myself. But I think it's a pretty good place to start. And this idea around visualizing your work and the visualization that can create part of the inspiration for you to continue to work on those things, as well as track your progress, and then celebrate your wins, celebrate the things that you got done. And so in that personal Kanban frame, there's this idea of swim lanes. And so for example, if you're at work and you're working on, say, an agile team, or a team that we're going to hope is agile, you can create what you're all going to work on by using this Kanban. Then has all of the things that you could be working on, and you maybe have a mechanism for prioritizing those, and so that sort of defines your work. Now, when I'm talking about enterprises doing this, what I want them to do is to create a swim lane, or at least a different bucket, for things that tackle items of uncertainty. So in other words, that you're thinking about things that you don't know, and you don't know the answer to, and so you actually have to go into learning mode. And we want to use the same process we use to prioritize all the stuff that we do know, in order to prioritize the stuff that you don't know. So that's sort of the standard way. And then there's this concept of swim lanes, where you take out specific projects and you create a swim lane for these things. Now, the swim lane can be, like for me personally, I have a swim lane for the new book that I'm writing. And so I want to separate that out, because the priorities are different than what the priorities are for running my company. And so I keep those priorities separate, because it brings to me more visibility for those things that I need to do and that are on a timeline. It keeps those front and center in a way different than a mass of things that I need to be doing for the company. And they need to be prioritized differently. Well, so your swim lane then can also look at all of these other different elements of a balanced life. So you could have a swim lane for family. You could have a swim lane for wellness. You could have a swim lane for, I don't know, creativity or spirituality or these other things in your life that might be important. And so, like, for example, if one of your swim lanes is family, then basically all of the things that you could be doing would be including, taking your partner out on a date, or it could be, spending more time with a child, or it could be teaching, somebody something, or, doing a Zoom call with your mom or your granddad or something. So there's these different things that you could be doing in support of your family relationships, and they go into their own section where you're just putting, for example, on a whiteboard, you're putting all of those items that existed in that swim lane. You're putting those are all options of things that you could be working on. And so, so you have that for your company, and you have that for special projects, and you have that for all of these other elements that give yourself that produces this more balanced life, this equilibrium. So setting the goals for those would be, how would you measure that you've achieved what you hope to achieve in each of those swim lanes? And I guess I am a fan of setting realistic goals, and then in addition to that, you can set sort of the stretch goal. So, managing salespeople, we've always sort of done that, hoping that the sort of the bumps in compensation happen when somebody actually stretches themselves and really goes for it. But you certainly can think of those for all of those different elements as well. And so I guess in the goal setting part of that, what you want to do is try to imagine. It's a little bit easier for businesses because they usually have revenue targets. But you could set other goals that are more qualitative, like the ability to, I want to increase the ability for my company to explore. In other words, I want them to learn how to understand customers deeply, and I want them to run experiments. So you can set a goal as being as general as I want my company to be better at exploration. And then you want to drill down to that. Well, what is the behavior of the individuals on a particular team or in one part of the organization that indicates that they have achieved that goal? Just sort of thinking this up on the top of my head, an objective for a company that wishes to be more in explore mode, you could use sort of vanity metrics. You're early in the process and you want the people to learn. So it's not necessarily at the beginning about outcomes in terms of like revenue. So you set goals like, we would have talked to, 1,000 customers, or we would have run 100 experiments, or whatever the number might be. And you could be confident that if people are running good experiments and they're having good conversations with people, that the impact on those will come. Eventually, what you really want to be able to do is track, using metrics to track the actual progress towards a specific outcome, as opposed to more generalized number of customers or number of experiments. And the reason for that is because you can optimize those numbers without impact. And that's what you want to try to avoid. That's what the definition really is of a vanity metric. A vanity metric is if you optimize that metric, it doesn't necessarily show outcome. It shows a lot of work that was done, but it doesn't show the outcome of that work. And so we kind of want to avoid those. But early in the process of change, that is an indication that if you're getting the behavior change, then you're starting the path towards driving that impact that you're hoping to have. And by setting an objective like that, you can also then sort of work backwards to where you are today, and you can measure the progress that people are making towards those. So you might want to set just sort of the sheer number as an earlier milestone. And then the later milestone might be that for a particular project, we have 100 customers that are engaged with that, with the minimum viable product or with a particular experiment that was uncovered because of the exploration work that was done early on. And so then once you get to that more hard metric, that it's an engagement metric or something like that, an active user metric, now you have a way to measure the progress towards that number. And again, notice we're not really talking about the true desired outcome like billions of dollars or billions of customers. We're focused on an interim learning metric. So we call those learning impact metrics, is like the active user or the engagement number. Because we haven't necessarily monetized it yet. We don't want to measure ourselves based upon the money. We want to measure ourselves based upon the learning. So again, how do you do that then with some of those other swim lanes? You want to be able to set what those milestones are, and if you, I don't know, if it's what is the behavior that indicates that you are spending more time with a child? What is the behavior that indicates that you've improved your relationship with your partner? What is the behavior that indicates that your loved one that you're only contacting remotely is I don't know, contented or happier or something like that? And so you want to focus on the behavior, that your changed behavior or you achieving your goal results in a change of behavior. And it could be just about yourself and habits and things that you're doing on a regular basis. But if we focus on the behavior, that's how we get to the incremental change that tells us whether we're making progress towards that goal that we set, that we wanted to achieve. The other aspect of setting goals and setting priorities, which we're not very good at, is this idea of looking at the level of uncertainty that we face in achieving a particular desired outcome. So in other words, we come up with a bunch of, like, especially in business, we'll come up with 10 things that we're trying to accomplish this year, and we throw them all in the same bucket. And we did this workshop with a leadership team at AIA, the insurance company. We were in Malaysia, and they had, I don't know, 20 different initiatives going on that the senior leadership team, the SLT, had come up with, and all of those initiatives, some of them multi-year initiatives, were put into the PMO, which is a project management organization. And so the project management organization is going to take all of those, estimate the time, and lay those out on a calendar. The complaint that we really heard from a number of the senior leaders is that they were not getting the impact that was promised for those particular initiatives. And one of the reasons I pointed out was because calendar is actually measuring whether the projects are done or not, or how much they're making progress towards the desired outcome, as opposed to tracking the actual incremental progress of the initiative itself. So it has nothing to do with the calendar. It's how far along are you towards achieving that goal, achieving that outcome. The other thing that is not captured there is the uncertainty. So do you have the right resources? Do you have the right capabilities? Do you have the deep enough understanding of what the desired outcome actually is, of what the needs are of the stakeholders? So all of those things will affect the desired outcome. And if you just lay the project out on a calendar, you're actually not tracking the learning at all. As a matter of fact, you're probably not even doing any learning. If you throw all of that stuff into the same project management organization that does all of the execution-minded stuff, then you're missing out on learning completely. And so you can use a 2x2. We have a download for you if you want to check out this 2x2, but basically you can just draw it as well. You want you're estimating impact from top bottom, so high impact at the top, lower impact to the bottom, and this is the impact that is to you as an individual or to you as a family or an organization. How do you perceive that impact is going to be towards you achieving what your objectives are? And then along the horizontal axis is the level of confidence. And so you have sort of this high confidence over on the right side and lower confidence over on the left side. And again, the confidence is based upon those characteristics that I described before. Understanding the stakeholders' needs. Do you have the capabilities? Do you have the right resources? Those type of things give you either high confidence that we can accomplish this or a lower confidence. And so basically what you get there, you want to take all of your goals, all of your priorities, and you're going to put them up on this 2x2. And so in the upper right, you're getting high impact and high confidence. Now you should be able to give those to the right skill set, and you should be able to count on their time estimates generally, all other things being equal, ceteris paribus. And you can count on those impacts coming about. The moment you start drifting towards the less certain, however, now you need a different skill set. You need to have that exploration skill set. And so it's not necessarily just giving it to that PMO team or to sort of the very execution-minded part of the team. You need to get resources in there that know how to go and develop the empathy, to be able to analyze the gaps analysis so that you can get the right resources and the right capabilities on those teams. Wherever that uncertainty is, you have to do a different level of analysis and a different level of learning before those high impact items that are in the left, high impact, less confidence. You want to increase the confidence first, not just simply execute on whatever those items are. There may be some execution that you're doing. So that's the concept of equilibrium, that we have to learn how to balance whether we should be doing the execution versus the exploration. But the idea there is we keep them, they're high impact items, and so we just want to shift them over towards the right so that they become higher confidence items. And so, your balance between learning and or the exploration mode and the execution mode changes as you increase confidence because you are learning during that process. And so I think that's an interesting way to help organize and prioritize your goals, is to think in terms of the uncertainty aspect of it. And I think that you're basically prioritizing, or you're making the high impact, low confidence, you're giving those a chance to achieve that impact, whereas otherwise you're not consciously prioritizing those items at all because they're not going to drive the impact that you want. And so ignoring the uncertainty or the lack of confidence element means that those have been deprioritized because you're not going to achieve those outcomes unless you do the exploration mode. So I guess I would challenge you to also think about that then in your personal life and some of those other wellness items that I'm talking about. Are there things in there that you are less confident or less certain about? And what are the steps that you can take? Learning mode, empathy being a primary method, but it could also be skills development. So, it definitely, again, all of this type of prioritization requires a sense of self-awareness, because we have to be pretty honest with ourselves about, whether we know or don't know, and whether we have the abilities or don't have the abilities, and whether we're, sort of confident enough that we can bring in people that might know better, that might be able to help us with the expertise part of it. Do we have the capabilities of doing the exploration mode? Do we know how to do the empathy work or run experiments in order to move those items to the higher confidence? And so the self-awareness aspect becomes super important, or else again, we're sort of unconsciously deprioritizing those items, and they may be in fact more important to us, higher impact. But we're never going to achieve those desired outcomes if we don't do the exploration mode first. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. And again, I'm welcome to dive into that a little bit deeper if people would like. I think that I think that it's important not to be too lofty that you set yourselves up for failure. So I think it's important to be aware again, and also it is important to keep some aspirational aspects in there. And so maybe that here's the what I think that I can achieve, and then here's the stretch goal, and then I think that the exploration versus the execution already helps us balance our life a little bit more. The exploration is a way that we are constantly building capabilities inside of ourselves that will always benefit the execution side. And so it's sort of never a waste of time.
Hey, thanks for listening to Brandt's Rant. If we're choosing capitalism here as a society, then let's make it work for a better world. If you'd like to join me as we redefine capitalism for the 21st century, go to beatcoop.co/D4A. Also, if you have a pressing issue that you're facing in your innovation group, your product group, your startup, and want to join me on video, see the link below. Subscribe, like, see you next time.